Hi, Julia. This is Steve Schwartz calling. How are you?
Well, and yourself?
I'm doing great, thanks. Is this still a good time for you to speak?
Yes, definitely.
Excellent. Okay, so thanks for your interest in being featured. I just wanted to call and see if there were any questions I could help you out with related to the LSAT. What's going on for you?
So my question isn't exactly about the LSAT, but in how I should approach schools afterwards. So I am going to sit for the September exam most likely. And I've been working in government for a while now, so I qualify to have my employer basically help me with law school if I stay in state. But I really didn't want to do that, so I wanted to know if you have any advice about how I should see when a school is worth it taking on loans to leave the state, whereas how I should look at an offer and decide, okay, maybe an in-state option would be better for me in this situation.
That's a great question, Julia. So taking on debt for law school is obviously a big thing. It's a big investment. You want to make sure it's worth it. It's kind of a funny thing, but a lower ranked law school charges just as much as a top 14 law school. But the value that you're getting is not the same because not all degrees are created equal. Some are worth more than others. So if you can get your employer to pay for your law school tuition altogether or to pay for a significant percentage of it, I would definitely consider that pretty strongly in favor of staying in state. Now, if you do want to go out of state, I would make sure either that you're going to a top 14 law school or at least a tier 1 law school, maybe one in the top 20 or 30 or 50. And maybe they'll give you significant scholarship money.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, because I was struggling with it because especially in Florida, our local school, it's still fairly new. It's only been around 8 years. So we didn't have our first DCA judge until this year. So I still felt kind of limited if I stayed in state. But, I mean, that's such a good offer that I'm having definitely a hard time saying no to that.
Yeah, sure. So if you are going to go out of state, then make sure it's a top-ranked school or make sure they're giving you, again, significant scholarship money comparable to what you might get from your employer. And, of course, the way to get that scholarship money is to have an LSAT score and a GPA that's significantly above the median of that school, because then admitting you will help them raise their rankings, which is what they care quite a bit about.
Got it. And would you say is 5 points a bit higher, or is like 1 or 2 points a good negotiation tactic?
It's really honestly all a matter of degree. 5 points will have a much more significant impact than just 1 or 2 points will, but even being above the median at all can make a big difference. But if you can get 5 points above, that's going to translate into thousands of dollars in scholarship money. I'm talking like tens of thousands of dollars. It's crazy that this all comes down to just a few points, which of course there's an element of randomness involved on the LSAT, but it is a very numbers-driven process.
Right. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, Julia. And you got time. I mean, between now and September, that's about 5 months. So you could make a significant change in your LSAT abilities over that period of time. So I'd say you put in the work now. This is the biggest return on investment you could ever possibly make because it translates into tens of thousands of dollars just with maybe 10, 15 hours a week of studying over the course of a couple of months. So put in the time and you'll get good results.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's really helpful. Thank you. Now I have a plan.
My pleasure, Julia. Awesome. Well, keep in touch and let me know if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep.
Thank you and have a good night.
You too. Take care.
I have gotten sort of a handle on logical reasoning and the reading comprehension. I mean, obviously, I do need to practice those two as well. But where I have been having difficulty is logic games, and I really need help in that. I know I need to practice for all three, but that's the one where I'm kind of just stuck. I don't know how to handle it. Because, see, the thing is, once I understand the concept, I can practice it. But if I don't understand the concept, what's the point of going through, 5 games, 6 games, or whatever? It's that sort of thing.
Right. Okay. Well, how many games have you done so far?
I have done some, and I confess I haven't been studying very regularly at all, because my hours of work were just crazy, which is why you had to call today. But I haven't done many, but my problem is not just it's not just doing it, it's just understanding what to do. That's the thing. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I don't understand the concept, then there's no point in me going forward with, I could do 100 games and I wouldn't understand anything. So that's what I'm trying to say.
Right. Well, there are a couple of things that stick out to me here. One of them is that you haven't been able to study that consistently. And consistency in your LSAT prep is really important, especially in the earlier stages when you're still learning the basics, because that will allow you to more clearly see the connections between logic games from different exams. Most students typically have to do a couple dozen games and maybe a couple dozen of each game type in order to see the connections and patterns in between them. And any one given section of logic games, you might not see any connections between the 4 games in that set. And within a set of 10 exams in one of those books of 10 on Amazon, where you have 40 games, there might only be a couple of games that are similar to each other within that entire set of 40. And so you were saying the question is, well, what to do, how to go about it. I can definitely give you some advice on this. One of my focuses has been on creating LSAT study plans so that step by step and day by day, you know exactly what to do and what not to do. So what you don't want to do is just do section after section after section, especially not timed when you haven't yet learned the basics. Instead, what you want to do is you want to do games by type. So do ordering games, then grouping games, then combination games. But even more specifically than that, do the easiest ordering games, then the moderate ordering games, then the difficult ordering, then easy grouping, moderate grouping, difficult grouping, and so on. And so you're doing at least a few of each type and a few of each type of each difficulty level, so you can work from easy to hard within each category.
Right. That's what you just said. That's exactly what I need. And like you said, consistency is important. And I have managed to make my schedule in such a way that I am going to devote at least 2 to 3 hours a day. I'm going to say 3 hours a day to LSAT prep.
Excellent. Great. I'm glad to hear it. So if you go on my website, go to the books tab at the top, then you'll see the day-by-day study plans. Click that and you'll see study plans for all different time periods, 1 month through 7 months. So you can pick the one that best fits your time frame. Start with the games, then reasoning, then reading comp. But if games is your focus, then maybe just do more practice problems of each type in the games section of the schedule.
Okay, I will definitely do that. I'm not at home right now, and my laptop is dead. But as soon as I go home, I'll definitely check out your website and I'll go on books and look into schedules.
Okay, great, Olivia. Now, if you have any questions at all as you move forward, please feel free to reach out.
I will, absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Take care. Hello, Sana.
Hi.
Hi, this is Steve Schwartz calling. How are you?
Doing good. How are you? Sorry, I just missed your call.
Oh, it's okay. Great to connect with you. What's going on for you with your LSAT prep?
So I feel like my situation is kind of different. I've already taken the LSAT twice. I've applied, and now I'm kind of debating whether or not I should reapply, or just start in the fall.
Okay, well, what happened for you previously? What's going on for you at the moment?
Okay, so I studied last summer. I took the September, got a 165, retook in November, got a 166, which really was a lot lower than what I was getting on my practice test. I was consistently in the 170 area, but for some reason I bombed my reading comp, and that just threw my whole score off. But I decided just to apply. I have a 4.0 GPA, and I'm a STEM student, and I applied late December, early January. My top 2 choices right now that I've been accepted are Berkeley and Georgetown. I'm waitlisted at Michigan, Chicago, a bunch of other places, Duke, Texas, Cornell. I don't have much in terms of scholarship from Georgetown. I haven't heard back from Berkeley, so I know that I can score higher. I'm just not sure if it's worth taking the risk of taking a year off, retaking the LSAT, restudying, and then spending all the money to reapply again.
Sure. I totally hear what you're saying. And I guess it comes down at this point to scholarship money, because I understand you've gotten into some pretty impressive schools.
Right, yeah. But, I mean, Georgetown, I just heard back from them yesterday. They're offering me $20,000 a year, and then Berkeley hasn't given me anything, but I'm trying to negotiate with them and then maybe go back and negotiate with Georgetown for more. But either way, I know I won't get a lot in terms of money, which is a concern. My parents will support me and financially support me through law school, which I'm really grateful for, but I really don't want for them to have to spend that much money for 3 years of education.
Yeah, I totally understand. It's a tough position because you've gotten into some great schools already. You still have the big question mark of the wait list for the others. I do wonder if it's funny how things have changed so much in the past couple of years, but I do wonder if you could potentially take the June LSAT, for example, and come back to the law schools that have waitlisted you with potentially higher results on the June LSAT, and then still be able to start law school this fall.
I thought of that, but I never really researched that. I wasn't sure if schools would take that into consideration, but I think I've seen some students do that, where they'll take the June one and send that to schools, or also use that for scholarship negotiations for schools that they've already accepted, try to bump up their scholarships. I don't know if you've heard of any students doing that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, you can do it for a school that's already accepted you and say, I'd love to go, but such and such other school offered me XYZ. Can you match or exceed that? Or just say, you know what, I got a few points higher on my LSAT. Does that give you any Does that give you any leverage or wiggle room there? You'd be surprised, but LSAT score is just a few points difference, makes a massive difference on their end in terms of what they're able to do for you. So I would contact them and say, see, you could ask them now even, if I got a few points higher on the June LSAT, would you consider that higher score for this cycle? And see what they'd say. I mean, you apply to a wide enough range of schools that I think that for at least a couple of them, it could make a difference for you this cycle and wouldn't necessarily require you waiting an entire year.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of only thought about that for a short time, but I think I might look into that more. Do you think they would also consider the July LSAT, or do you think that would be too late?
I think they're less likely to consider it, but the cycle has extended so much, as you can see, that the majority of schools you listed had waitlisted or deferred you. Am I correct about that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just funny how that's changed so much in recent years. It's kind of their default position to waitlist and defer to see who else will come along, because it is so numbers driven. And with the recent decline in applicants over the past few years, they are waiting longer and longer to see who else comes along, which isn't necessarily the most polite thing to do, of course, but it is what it is. And I think that you might be surprised. People do hear back even in July or even a couple of weeks before the semester starts, and they could totally change their trajectory of their next 3 years based on that alone.
Huh, okay. And I also had one extra question. Do you think, I don't know if there's any data you can look to or anything, do you think next cycle, this upcoming cycle, will be more competitive than this one? Like what are predictions in terms of the next cycle, if you have any info on that?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, it's always hard to say. I don't really play the predictions game too much. It could go, really go in any direction. But yeah, I think that you've got a strong application already. You've already gotten into a couple of great schools, and even the $20,000 a year, that's something. That's nothing to sneeze at. But I think it could be worth retaking in June regardless. There's not really a downside, because if you do better, you come back to the schools with a higher score. If you don't do better, well, they only consider the highest anyway, so you didn't really lose anything. Right.
Okay. I will definitely look into that and contact them, but thank you for that suggestion.
My pleasure, Sane. Keep in touch and let me know how it turns out for you, and of course, if I can help in any way as you move forward.
All right. Thanks again. Bye.
Hey, this is Tommy.
Hey, Tommy. Steve Schwartz here. How you doing?
Hey, doing good, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, thanks. This is still a good time for you to speak?
Yeah, no, it's perfect.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for your enthusiasm. Thanks for getting back to me. And I'm excited to hear that you're interested in joining the masterclass.
Yeah, I'm so excited to join the masterclass. I feel like that's gonna be kind of not just one more resource, because every resource is helpful to me in some way. But I think it'll have like an extra thing that I can add to my arsenal of stuff.
So what let me ask you, what led you to consider joining the masterclass? What about it appeals to you?
Well, okay. That's a great question. I'm not sure if its mere existence is appealing, specifically because there's so little out there that's not just a big, like, 500-page book. I think I remember you saying something about that online, and more or less they're all the same. The individual sort of attention is, and the personal insight that comes from LSAT tutors, I feel like is valuable, and to get it from a master class, I feel is, on par with getting it from somebody individually.
That's kind of what it's meant to replicate. Obviously, nothing perfectly mimics one-on-one interaction, but one of the unique things I'm doing with the master class is that I'm orienting it around the specific needs of the students in the class. So I have a general framework, but honestly, I'm just co-creating the curriculum with the students in the class. Each week, I solicit requests on what to include, and then during each class session, we cover exactly what the students asked for.
Okay, well that does make sense. And I filled out some stuff for you actually earlier today to be included on other things, and I know that you're probably looking for a specific type of person to kind of join in this. I suppose that kind of person is somebody who's far enough along to understand some of the finer details regarding maybe strategies and question explanations that deal with more nuanced and like less broadly applicable issues. Is that a fair assessment?
I would certainly say so. Yeah, I'm looking for highly motivated, self-driven students who are not starting off from complete scratch, although it's okay if they are. I'm looking for folks who are investing themselves in their prep enough so that they can maximize what they get out of the class with me.
Perfect. Well, as far as that goes, I feel like there's a lot to learn from people, and everybody has a different experience. You and other students, and being a part of that, I'm super, super excited for that reason, because it's gonna be these highly motivated students, and they're gonna be coming with all the different situations that they themselves face. Might not be something I think of off the bat, might not be something I ever think of. So, good stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of the benefit you get is from the questions other students are asking, because you may not have thought to ask them, you may not have known to ask them, and you may have different areas of strength and weakness, but it always helps to get another take on a particular question.
I agree. Yeah, so I heard reading comprehensions on Monday, actually, and it's funny that it should work out like that. I just absolutely burnt out on logic games. I've been doing them for 2 weeks, and I've decided to stop hitting my head against the wall and move on to RC. So I feel like it's going to be so great to jump right in with something that I'm tackling next, have at least a little bit of time to orient myself within the section, and figure out where to really minimize the mistakes, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think reading comp, more than any other section, it is tough to perfect 100%. Typically, the average 170 scorer is getting perfect or maybe -1 on games, but then they are getting 3 wrong on each of the other sections. And obviously, we do want to minimize that, but it is something that we do want to minimize more than perfect, just because perfection on reading comp, more than any other section, I think is difficult to achieve. It has those ambiguities of language that games does not. But that being said, we will work on it as much as we possibly can. So I think you're coming in at the right time, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to reopen the doors to the master class, but I think that you strike me as someone highly motivated and driven, and you'll be able to watch the recordings of the previous classes to get caught up to speed.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, it's actually great that we're on Reading Comp. I just remembered that I kind of prepared actually a question for you regarding that. I got so excited I kind of glazed over actually your assessment of scoring on it. But part of my question would be what do you think of my approach? And then the next part would be, what is your experience with people who do end up getting to the point where they can get -1 or -2 or per section? I don't know if you want to go into that with me right now.
Yeah, sure. Why don't we do a quick take on it now, and then we can go into more depth during the class on Monday.
Sure. Okay, so I guess if I'm going to do both parts, let me just take you like brief 3 steps. I do a very skeletal summary as I go along. This is like 1 word per paragraph. I'll look at it, and then I'll answer all the questions based on what I've read, like really actively. One of the strategies I'd employ in practicing is, of course, getting to know each type of question really well, and identifying exactly what it's asking for so I can find it better. And I guess my big question is, do you have like something that you'd like to add to like those kind of steps as I'm kind of starting RC for the first time?
You have a skeletal framework of the passage, and then you have a step-by-step approach for each question?
Less step-by-step and more practicing identifying exactly what the question asks for. So agree and disagree questions, I suppose, are easier than maybe primary purpose questions, where you have to identify like exactly why the writer is motivated to write something like that or something along that strain.
Okay, so we'll have to look into this a little bit more, because the primary purpose question and the main idea questions, those actually, you want those to be the easiest for yourself after having read the passage, because those are the most general, broad questions they could possibly ask you. So I think we want to actually reorient the approach a little bit so that you'll walk away from the passage knowing the primary purpose, knowing the main idea, and then the more inferential questions that come later could actually be a little bit tougher, and that's okay.
I see. So maybe instead of I wouldn't sharpen the contrast between the hard and easy questions as much as I will do in this next question. I'll make it short again. But as far as that's concerned, I suppose the inferential questions probably have, patterned answer choices, patterned questions that after enough repetition you start to recognize that maybe I haven't gotten to that point yet, but that would be one of my primary goals before I take it in June.
Yeah, there certainly are patterns. I think there are especially patterns in the tempting wrong answer choices and the discouraging right answer choices. In reading comprehension, more than any other section, it is a matter of process of elimination, because you're rarely going to love the wording of the correct answer. So it's more about eliminating the wrong ones, and then whatever's left, even if you don't love it, you do have to pick it by process of elimination.
All right. Well, I think that's a great start. I'm not sure if I know that you've got a lot of people to call, though.
Yeah, but this was definitely helpful for me, Tommy, just to know where you're at going in for the master class on Monday. So I'm going to note the particular questions you raised about reading comp approach, and I'll incorporate them into Monday's class.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for calling me tonight.
Of course, Tommy, my pleasure. I'll send over everything to get you set up for the class, and I'll look forward to seeing you Monday.
Thanks a lot. See you later. Bye-bye.
My pleasure. See you. Bye. If you were to look back 3 to 5 years from now, and you were to say that this coaching conversation with me today changed everything for you, what would have to happen?
I think it would have to be a conversation that helped me, focus on, developing a growth mindset instead of having a fixed mindset in terms of LSAT preparation. Because right now, I think that's probably been the biggest barrier, because with me, I was very excited to, start college, but I think being here hasn't been the best environment in terms of like professors and coworkers too, because I work on campus at the legal affairs office. But just with the feedback that I've been getting from people, particularly in the piano performance major, it's more fixed mindset. You know, if you're not doing good today, you get kicked out, you know, even though you're trying really hard. So I kind of lost that. So I think, you know, just being able to gain that back again.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's extremely important. Yeah, mindset is so much a part of LSAT prep. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing that stood out to me in the prep material you sent over for today's session is that you're trying to study while you're in college right now, spring semester, right?
Yeah.
When are you registered for the LSAT?
I'm not registered right now, but I'm planning on taking it in September.
Okay, so you've got a while.
Yeah.
You've got a while. And what are your plans for the summer?
I was just going to study, but I'm still figuring out how I'm going to be doing that. I applied. So, as I mentioned before, I'm a first-gen student, so we do have a program where you can apply for funding. So I applied for funding, and I'm waiting to hear back.
Okay. Okay, great. So you got the whole summer ahead of you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, studying for the LSAT while you're in college, are you taking a full course load?
As of right now, no, but with my extracurriculars, it does not leave a whole lot of time, which is why it's been particularly challenging this semester, because I wanted to get a head start with everything. But this program that I started is taking up a lot more time than I expected. And same thing with senior year is going to be very challenging, especially, you know, in the beginning, getting everything together, because not only am I going to be running my mentor program, because we're working with both high school students and 8th grade students, but I'm also going to be the president of PreLaw Society. I'm currently the vice president. And then on top of being the president for PreLaw Society, I'm also starting an undergraduate law journal. Nice. And then I'm adding some more things and making some major changes in PreLaw Society, you know, on top of working. And I'm a student ambassador, and I do all these other things too. But I think I'm kind of drowning. I put way too much on my plate. I don't know how to say no. Like, that's probably been my biggest challenge. Like, anytime, you know, someone, you know, offers me an opportunity, I have a fear of missing out, because, you know, me being here, being a first-gen student, I want to take advantage of as many opportunities as possible. And so it's definitely had an effect on my health. But, you know, great LinkedIn page and great resume, and I have a lot to talk about for law school applications, but it's more important to have a good LSAT score at this point. So I don't know. I think because I was trying to decide whether or not I should take that year off so I have that extra time to study and everything, but then I realized I wouldn't be able to get the funding for it if I wasn't a student at campus. Mm-hmm. So, or I could just focus on the LSAT and then worry about the application parts later once I graduate. But I think the best case scenario is just to do it now, because I have this momentum and I want to keep it up. And I feel like it would look bad if I go from doing all this stuff to taking a year off and like not really doing anything, working part-time and like nothing else. I'd have to find another major thing to do. So.
Gotcha. What would happen for you if you were to make the LSAT your number one or one of your top 2 or 3 priorities this summer in the lead up to the September LSAT? What would that look like?
I'm very disciplined with myself, so I think that's definitely something that I'm going to be able to do. I'm not going to be working at all over the summer. So for me, that would be well, I already do this anyway, but I have my days planned out hour by hour. Excellent. And so that's something that I would do over the summer. You know, with sufficient breaks, obviously, for like time to go to the gym, which I think is important and something I love to do. But also, I laugh because that one email that you sent about eating Twinkies can help you. I eat terribly. Mm-hmm. But I also feel like, you know, me being able to change my diet around would help me a lot. In terms of like my health too. So.
It's
I
kind
don't
of
know.
funny. It's kind of funny. So we've got your number one priority, which, as you know, the LSAT is the most important factor in law school admissions, right?
Mhm.
Undergraduate law journal, pre-law society, those are all fun. They're nice to meet friends and such. But as far as law school applications are concerned,
Mhm.
they don't really care. It's mainly numbers. It's LSAT, GPA, and everything else. There could be other side benefits to doing those sorts of activities, but the numbers are the biggest part of law school admissions in contrast to undergrad admissions and other programs. And so for you, I would say that the activities, the extracurriculars, those are actually, those should actually be on your avoid at all costs list to distract you so easily. I used to love extracurriculars also. They're a lot of fun, they're social, and you're building things, you're creating things yourself, which as an undergraduate student to be like out in the world creating things is pretty cool. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you have to avoid them forever, but until you're done with the LSAT, if you are taking on roles and new opportunities and things, they're going to eat up all your time because they're a lot more fun. The LSAT, until you get the hang of it, it's difficult. It's taxing. So could you, for just this summer, make the LSAT your top priority and get it out of the way?
And without like doing any other work for my other things.
Could you at least block it off where, let's say, you have until June 15th or June 30th to do other things, but then July, August, and midway through September till test day, that's your focus. And I know that obviously the semester will start again, but the beginning of the semester, aside from like a little bit of a meet and greet with the other group members and such, is there that much you have to do? Could you delegate as a leader to other members of your group?
I think that's something that I can do.
Now, you said you're someone who blocks things off day by day, hour by hour. I love it because that's what I do too. I created LSAT schedules, day by day plans to break it down. And you're someone who's into schedules. So you might like Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, where he talks about how to get things done and avoid multitasking, avoid distractions. And so there are two ways to do that. One way is to go into kind of a monk mode where you go off by yourself for a few months, no distractions, no internet, nothing, and just focus. That's obviously not reasonable for most people or realistic. So there is an alternative where you block off chunks in your day, in your week, let's say 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. For those 3 hours, nobody can interrupt you, no internet, and you focus. And then 12:01 hits, you can reconnect with the world. But at least those 3 hours, it happens versus you suddenly get a text that there's a typo in the event flyer and then everything has to be rerouted, right? Everything has to be changed.
Yeah. I think I have lost my ability to focus particularly with this semester, just with the program and everything, because I'll be doing something and I get emails 24/7. I'm always stopping, responding to emails, or even just like walking from one place to another. I'm always like taking care of things on my phone instead of just being fully focused and mindful. And so that has been very detrimental to my overall ability to focus. So I can definitely do that. I know when I practice piano, I'll put my phone on airplane mode, or else it's not going to get done. But another thing too, I'm going to have to be preparing for is my senior recital, which is like a 2-hour solo concert that I have to do. So that on top of LSAT prep, I'm going to have a lot of blocked off monk time. So it's definitely something I can do, and I'm definitely self-disciplined enough. And I actually enjoy not being distracted all the time.
I love it. It's funny because we all end up being distracted. Me too. But we all like the times that we're not distracted, right? So what we like and what we do are two different things. And it takes a little bit of self-control, honestly, discipline to put the phone on airplane mode, turn off the Wi-Fi on the computer, and actually just focus on the task at hand for a couple of hours. There's a great app, by the way, called Focus, if you want to use your phone in a productive way to actually help you focus rather than be distracted. So you might look into that also. It involves a technique called the Pomodoro technique, where you do work in chunks and you take breaks in chunks so that you always know there is a break coming up. There is a chance to do something that's mindless for a moment to check emails or whatever. But then it times you so that once the clock starts again, you're back at work with, in this case, the LSAT, the prep materials and such.
Okay. I'll check it out.
I believe you can do it, especially because you mentioned you're a scheduler. If you put it on the calendar, it'll happen.
Yeah. I find the distractions come more like when I'm at work and I have a free moment. And so it's easy. I'll open a tab and I'll take care of some emails, work on some like planning stuff, and then I'll go back to doing my work. And then I'll go back to doing whatever is on my other monitor, Yeah. So, but other than that, I think I don't get as distracted with other parts of my life. It's just a matter of, having that time over the summer where I'm not going to be getting bombarded all the time.
Right. Well, I believe you can make it happen, Olivia.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure connecting with you. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course. And by the way, before we sign off, I'm wondering if you had any follow-up questions from last week's masterclass, because you joined last week, right? On the reading comp.
Yeah, that was really cool. I definitely didn't even think about the whole speed reading and, getting those resources was really awesome. And I'm going to be checking those out. I have a whole law school application timeline, and I have my delegated months with whatever I'm going to be doing. So in May, I'll be reading mindfulness in plain English. I've tried meditating since then too. I've been looking at all your other things on the LSAT Unplugged YouTube channel. And I don't really have any other follow-up questions. I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. And there's a lot of content here. You're awesome. That's it.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.